After 1 week of Naoshie's mind manipulation trying to delay this episode's inevitable, it's time for Team Mind Bedazzler Cultist that includes Mio's mom's ex, who is like her distant uncle and cousin NTR, versus Team Kudo, consisting of ex-traumatized, fully awakened dream invader, Saimori, Mio, and her husband-to-be. One guy wants Mio to rule the world under a Suba rule, and the others just doesn't. Peaceful, don't kill anyone idealism versus a bloody revolution. Which side will come out on top? For this video, we're going to be covering My Happy Marriage, Season 2, Episode 25, Yume no Sake ni Aru Omoi. After a week of production delays for whatever reason, I think the episode turned out just fine. I'd rather see a good product come out late rather than a crappy product that came out on time. So this episode gave us a fitting in for what Naoshi and Mio wants, in which neither truly gets what they want, which I think is also a reasonable end to the arc. So let's hop into the recap. Naoshi didn't think Mio had it in her to fully awaken her power so soon, so he pulls out a knife. Either way, yeeting the handsome blonde-headed fiance will always be on the table. When the eyes glow, the crows go. Forget superpowers, mind tickling, who needs that? Kyoka and Naoshi fight the old-fashioned way with sharp objects. With back and forth cling clanking, Kyoka is already at a disadvantage from having cousin NTR put 2 holes in his body, and so Naoshi gashes him up. However, Kyoka got mind bedazzled. When was the last time mind games became this literal? Your last ex! Arata takes Mio hostage. Cousin NTR is the only real smart one around here who brings sharp objects to a pew-pew fight. And who needs sharp objects and pew-pews when they're all bedazzlers of the brain? And the villain could have gone for mental trespassing and vandalized their brains from the very beginning. I guess that's what the crows were for. Where there is a battle of mind perception and logic being thrown out the window, the side characters are proving to be reliable by disposing of all the NPCs as Yoshido, Tadakio, and Kazushi make their way through the building. It looks like they have identified where their emperor is, as Mukadayama brings some good news on his location. While things are looking bright on the outside, Kyoka is being brain bedazzled by illusions. How is he going to know what's real from what's not? He breaks the foolishness of Naoshi's tricks to finally release some lightning. But as we found out with Usui against Jinochi, this guy is super nimble. With each attack, Kyoka is one step behind as he defends something fake to get gashed up by something real. And when he attacks something fake, he gets slashed up again from behind. And so Kyoka gathers himself to go full out and dashes towards Naoshi, only to miss for Naoshi to wind up for the finisher. But that was what Kyoka wanted, as he does something unexpected, like blocking purposefully with his bare hand and releases heat. Naoshi looked like he was on the ropes, but he released a force field in time to avoid any kind of damage. With the crows and illusions being the appetizers, it's time for Naoshi to really mind invade. Kyoka is put into a trance where his mind is totally in a dark abyss. Both Naoshi and Kyoka in the flesh are in a complete standstill. I guess it's kinda hard to yeet someone in the middle of brain scrambling them. Mio remembered that one time Usui soloed everyone and said,
"Not on my watch."
But also not on cousin NTR's watch. For some reason, out of plot convenience, Dream Sight makes an appearance to give Mio a revelation that Naoshi would end up throwing a knife at Arata's head, as Arata pulls the trigger to put an end to Naoshi's villainy.
Yamero!
Kyoka is stuck in a cycle of seeing Mio being yeeted over and over again. Now she totally wants to mind break Kyoka until he becomes a potato. But now she probably doesn't know that this isn't the only time Mio saved Kyoka from being in an endless cycle of terror. Because marriage is a partnership that have each other's back, where love knows no bounds, as she starts to glow like, "This is why the episode has been delaying." In order to change an unwanted future, she must go beyond bedazzling by putting everyone in her dream world. Now, with Arata, Naoshi, Hyoka, and Mio all mentally in the same place, the playing field has been evened out again. So instead of fighting, it's a battle of words. Now she thinks Mio and himself are the same, using power to hurt others to get what they want. But, no. This is what happens when some guys become delusional from the hearts being broken. Mio lives in a world of idealism, of not wanting to hurt others to create a better world. But now she is like, no, that's not how revolutions work. And so Mio, for once, took a page out of Kanoko's playbook and uses open palms. Oh, so she does believe in violence. Mio tries to level with Naoshi with their peaceful idealism and some smacking, and even uses Sumi as a way to get to him to see what he has become. Sumi would not be proud of that, but in classic ex-boyfriend form, he tells her that she knows nothing about Sumi and himself. She continues to tell him that she saw everything, like that one sucking blood incident. This leads to a long and emotional monologue about people's feelings. Everything Mio says, now she acknowledges and understands full well the magnitude of everything that he's doing. And so then he goes ballistic and tries to drown Mio and Kyoka. With Arata about to live out the revelation from earlier, Mio stops him. This has totally become a who hurt you situation. She did. Which leads to the spirit of the person that hurt Naoshi's feelings to magically appear. Saimori, Sumi, Naoshi explains that this is all for her, and that maybe Mio and her own family might have been misleading her, and that he is not the one that's misled. In a plea from Sumi to help release the responsibility of being her sword to create this peace, especially for the Usuba family, she relieves them of this responsibility, hopefully taking this monkey off of his back. But that isn't something a dude that created a cult, yeeted probably hundreds and hundreds of people, wants to hear right now. And so he pulls out another knife and yeets himself in an attempt to release himself from the dream. The gears start to turn for a new era as Sumi explains another metaphor like the snow and the cherry blossom trees ushering a new world. Is this Naoshi's world or is it Mio's? Honestly, it's somewhere in between. Everyone ends up waking up in reality, and Naoshi is bleeding from his nose, looking like he's gone insane, even more so than before. Engulfed in a black smoke, getting ready to do something drastic, but Cousin NTR calls game 2 times. Cousin NTR says screw idealism and wins in the end by execution. I meant self-defense. Although Mio's revelation of the future eventually came true, a slight but major detail has changed, that Arata received a knife to the chest instead of the head, as he lays on the ground apologizing to Mio, as if everyone didn't already realize that he has been a double agent. Kyoka calls for medical help, but it's already too late, as Naoshi is getting ready to pass away. The spirit of Sumi appears right before him, once again to allow him to let go. Usually in these kinds of moments, your dead loved one tells you that you have more to do, so stay alive. But nah.
Come with me.
Dumb cultist distant cousin ex-boyfriend. And so, the villainous mind bedazzling is no more, cause he did. A stretcher comes for cousin NTR. Mio cries out in her idealism for the dead Naoshi and her mother's wishes of the Usubas living like normal people. But I believe that everyone can agree that Cousin NTR came up clutch and did the right thing, because clearly talking some sense was not working with him, as talking about anything related to Sumi just made him more radical. With Naoshi dead and Arata getting the right medical attention, everyone else on the outside is starting to wrap up. The Emperor got saved and everyone else seems to be a-okay, except Arata's chest. You know what? I actually enjoyed how the episode portrayed how Naoshi eventually met his end, as both Mio and Naoshi made great points. Changing the world does sometimes involve using force, depending on the circumstances. I mean, that is why we fight wars, right? When each side can't be reasoned with, you end up just fighting to settle the dispute. Mio is unrealistic and idealistic in her approach that changing the world does involve hurting someone, whether it's intentional or not. So in a sense, we have two opposite sides trying to achieve some kind of peace, all wrapped around this romance over Sumi. So that's why Arata blasting Naoshi is like the middle ground. Naoshi is a cultist terrorist that's responsible for hundreds and hundreds of deaths and various riots. You can't say give him due process if he was still alive, but you can also say self-defense. Mio continuing to try to talk it out with Naoshi would have never worked. The story literally had to bring in a dead entity to get him to drop his guard. I think what we have in this arc is the limitations of what Mio thinks Sumi wanted for the Asubas, living peacefully among everyone else rather than being segregated away from everyone. And I think it was pretty obvious that Naoshi's way was forceful and very extreme as well. And I think there's clearly a happy medium here between this peace that doesn't involve hurting anyone versus some kind of forceful change. And the happy medium is probably Prince Takahito. With such a big incident that occurred and the birth of the fully awakened dream site, Maiden, maybe the world can be steered in a better direction than it is right now. One of the criticisms I have now that Naoshi is officially dead is the focus not being enough about the cult. The main driver of Naoshi's intentions ends up being romance focused, even though the focus was about bringing Mio into power so the Asuba family and her can help lead this peaceful world. It's strayed away from the concepts of giving people power, knowledge, being oppressed in some way. It ends up being more of like a general concept rather than diving into the nitty-gritty of what's wrong with the society that they have. Ultimately, it ended with Naoshi trying to do what he thought Sumi wanted for the world, thus why romance being the focus of it all. But being that the cult was the cult and real riots started to occur, that should mean that society does have a problem. I know it's a romance story, so that being the focus at the end makes a lot of sense though. In the end, it was two sides that couldn't come to a common ground with unrealistic expectations. Each side made valid points, besides Naoshi's reasoning for revolting, being one for just Sumi. I think if the season was more like 18 episodes instead of 13, a lot of these concepts and issues, understanding what Sumi really wanted for the world, and all the other political components of the story, if it got proper exploration, it would have felt a little bit more rewarding. These past few episodes felt more like cliff notes rather than building the depth it needed to build upon these concepts. However, I take things as it is. It's a romance. It is what it is. Naoshi got his girl taken away by the Emperor by being promised to another family. He basically fought a war with this cult to bring forth this peaceful vision for Sumi by the end. And I think he received a proper ending by dying and leaving with Sumi's spirit, because he doesn't need to do this for her anymore. These past few episodes have been a bit average, but I think the overall concept of it all is still excellent. We have to give Cousin NTR his props. He plays a good guy that put two holes in our boy, and where our MC refuses to kill the man that's trying to kill her man, leave it up to, respectfully, Asuba Arata to be the true hero. to yeet that mind-blasting bastard. So yeah, guys, let me know what you guys thought about this episode and how now she met his end. Was it a satisfying end for you guys? Was it worth the extra week off? I would love to know. And do me a favor, guys, hit the like button if Cousin NTR redeemed himself, and subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Check out my blog at otakusen.com, and I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.